Hello, listeners. This is Kat, and welcome back to Put Your Hands Up Podfics. This will be the continuation of Little Acts of Kindness. This will be Part 88, Chapter 88, entitled Green, the Most Threatening Color. Time? Denki questioned. A little past 8, Sato answered him. Denki grinned, rubbing his hands together. It's almost showtime then, he said, chuckling a little bit. Really, there should be boss music playing, because they were about to cause some chaos. The power plant was just about out of power, with no one maintaining it. As soon as it ran out of power, places across the city would start shutting down. Are you guys ready? He questioned. Sato and Tsuburaba nodded. Denki held up a flash drive, plugging it in and getting the file ready. All he would have to do was activate it. Then it's time to get this show on the road. Tapping his communicator, he said, Team Power to Control, we're ready. Understood. I'll let you know when we're ready on our side, Rain replied, falling silent as he likely started talking to the other people. It was a good 10 minutes before his earpiece crackled to life. Control to Team Power. Stoplight time. Denki laughed. Roger that, Control. Then he tapped away, running the command he had set up to shut down the power to the entire city, leaving the power plant with some of its reserves. Just enough for their last move. All across the simulated city, lights flickered and died, the city becoming dark building by building, streetlight by streetlight, until finally, the only light they had was from the silver of the moon that hovered in the sky. The only place that had power was the power plant, which, with a flick of the switch, lit up, the light bulbs all having been changed thanks to Ashido's robbing of a store. It had taken quite a bit of work to set up, but Denki was proud of what they had done. The building lit up with green lights, shining a bright green. Now, it was just a waiting game. Ochako and Tokage had been patrolling together when the streets went dark, the lights turning out in the buildings. Except for the power plant, which had been nearby, it remained lit up, and the two realized something was wrong. Immediately, they started heading towards it, and they watched as the building changed from a bright, warm reddish-orange glow to a bright green, of a similar shade to the smiles that were popping up all over the city. Midoriya, she whispered, eyes widening. Or someone else on the team, Tokage said, giving her agreement. I'll check it out, give me a minute, she said, her eyes detaching from her body and floating up and over to the power plant. Ochako kept watch, even as Tokage gasped. What's wrong? She asked, offering a hand of comfort to the girl's shoulder. The city, all those smiley faces, they're glowing. Glowing? Ochako questioned, shuddering a bit. How did we not notice that last night? Well, the city was still really bright. I'm not seeing anyone at the power plant. It looks completely deserted, Tokage said, after another minute, her eyes coming back and reattaching to her face. We should be cautious, but do you think this is just a distraction? Ochako questioned, biting her lip. It really is obvious, but we need to get the power back up and running. I doubt they would leave the place unguarded. They called into the agency, but there was no response. Who's on duty right now at the agency? I believe it should be Shinso and Pony by now, who are keeping an eye on things, with Komori and Hananuke sleeping. The rest are out around the city. Ochako got in contact with the other teams, and found that none of them could contact the agency, but most of them were far away. The closest person was Sue, who reported that she was on her way back, but it would still be about 20 minutes. Ochako bit her lip, glancing backwards. I think something might be wrong at the Hero Agency. Tokage nodded. There's nothing we can do for them. We are needed at the power plant. Ochako nodded. I know. The two made their way to the power station. They arrived and the road-blocking gates were raised up, welcoming them into the green glow. She shuddered. It feels like this place should be toxic. Tokage gave a slight hum, agreeing. They entered one of the buildings and started to look around, but as they did, the lights shut out, plummeting them into darkness, though the green glow peeking in through the windows revealed that the power plant was still lit up. The speakers crackled, coming to life. Welcome! I'm so glad to have you here, Oravity, Lizardy. Now, as you know, I can't just have you stop our leader's plans, so I won't make things easy on you. Kaminari said, his voice coming over the speakers. "Come and find me, but be warned. Some of my friends have visited and set up a few traps." Ochako frowned, and the two started to carefully make their way through. They did, in fact, find some traps, tripwires hidden in the dark, buckets with glue in them that tried to stick them to the floor, tape covering the floor to slow them down, birds that attacked them as soon as they entered the room. And all the while, Kaminari commented over everything, his commentary covering everything they did, degrading them, insulting them, laughing at them. The elevators didn't work, so they had to take the stairs and paint buckets came swinging down at them. They looked around the entire building trying to find Kaminari, but they didn't come across him at all. "He's not here," Tokage whispered in realization. Kaminari laughed. "Nope, but take a look out the window to your left." Ochako did, and they saw one of the other buildings, and in one of the windows they saw Tsuburaba sitting on the inside. The boy looked at them and waved, hopping down from the window and vanishing into the building. Kaminari gave a snicker. "Come on, heroes, you better hurry up the pace if you want to stop me." "Stop you from what?" Ochako questioned. "That's the question, isn't it?" Kaminari said. "What kind of villain would I be if I just gave away my plans so early in the game? No, if you want to know my plans, you have to come find me. But the clock is ticking." Tick, tock. As soon as Kaminari finished speaking, the sound of a clock hand moving started to play. It was quiet, barely audible, but it was there. And when she noticed it, she couldn't unnotice it. Tick, tock. The two made their way out of the building, the sound echoing in their ears the entire time. They entered into the next building, and the door gave an audible click behind them, electronically locking behind them. Tick, tock. Kaminari chuckled. "So glad you finally decided to join us in the proper building, but don't worry, I won't make things too boring. Come and find me." Once again, the lights shut off, leaving only the glow from the windows to illuminate the rooms. And all the while, that infernal sound of clocks ticking continued on. Tick, tock. Ochako growled, the sound being annoying. Really, why didn't Cementos let them switch over? Surely that was realistic, right? There had to have been some heroes who decided to join the villains. It would have been so much more fun to be in the know about what was happening than left in the dark. Tick. Literally. Wait, was the ticking getting louder, or was that just her imagination? Tock. After checking the first floor and finding no traps, the two headed up the stairs. One by one they went, and things got progressively more difficult as they did so. When they were only a stairway away from the top, the floors became slippery, and they had to use their quirks to get past the stairway. Tick. Finally, though, they were on the last floor, and they entered, expecting more traps. Tock. Instead, it was just dark. No traps greeted them. The ticking was almost the only thing Ochako could hear, but she wasn't sure if it was actually getting louder, or if it was just because the sound was so annoying that it seemed like it was becoming louder. Tick. Tock. Cautiously, they moved further in, and the lights flared on, blinding them from the sudden brightness. Uraraka was just able to get her sight back when the room plunged into darkness again. Tick. Tock. Leaving her with a lack of night vision. Two chuckles came from the room. Ochako desperately looked around, but couldn't make out anything, nor could she hear any footsteps over that ticking sound. Tick. Tock. A sharp cry of pain from Tokage startled her, and she looked to the left but couldn't see her partner. "Tokage?" she asked, her voice holding fear in it. She knew that the student wouldn't be actually harmed too badly, but she didn't want to be left all alone in the dark. Tick. Tock. The sound of fighting came, and Ochako did her best to help, throwing a few metal balls out into the darkness where she thought Sato was. There was a grunt, but nothing more. Her vision was starting to return by now, and she saw the outline of Sato, the barest illumination peeking in from a covered window. But as soon as she saw him, he was gone, going to where she saw shapes moving in the shadows. Tokage fighting with Tsuburaba. Tick. Tock. Ochako threw herself into the fray, doing her best to help Tokage, but a couple minutes later, there was a sound of a couple thuds hitting the ground, and Kaminari chuckled. "One down, one to go." Tick. Ochako growled. Don't underestimate me. Talk. Kaminari chuckled. I wouldn't dream of it, darling. I look forward to seeing what you can do. Please, impress me, my dear Uravity. Tick. Tock. Sato came charging at her, and reacting on instinct, she grabbed him and bodily tossed him, the boy hitting the window with a loud shattering sound as his momentum caused him to fly right out of it. He screamed. Tick. Tock. Ochako's eyes widened, and she rushed to the window and saw that Sato had managed to grip onto the building. Sorry, are you all right? Sato nodded. I'm fine, but I think this counts as an out for me. The speakers crackled. Correct, and Uraraka, be more careful, Aizawa scolded. Yes, Sensei, sorry, she said, flushing. She hadn't meant to throw him out the window. The speakers crackled again, and immediately the ticking sound was back. Tick. Tock. Ochako frowned, exploring the rest of the upstairs, but Kaminari was nowhere to be seen. Tick. Tock. Where are you, Kaminari? You can't hide forever, she questioned. Tick. There was a laugh. True, but you're running out of time. Tock. She twitched as the sound of the clock continued on, unbothered by her annoyance at it. When she found Kaminari, she was going to give him a piece of her mind for being so annoying. Ochako huffed. Was there a third building? She and Tokage had only seen 2 initially. Tick. Tock. But how could they have missed him? Tick. Tock. Man, I feel pretty bad for you. Lost and alone, without no one to call your own, Kaminari taunted over the speakers. I changed my mind, little Uravity. I'll be your friend. Just follow the path. Tick. Tock. Path? She repeated with a swallow. Why were the villains being so creepy? Kaminari simply chuckled as a green light blinked in the distance, on and off. Tick. Tock. She followed after the green light, keeping her eyes peeled, but as she got closer to the light, it turned off and another green light appeared in the distance. Tick. Tock. Ochako frowned. Was the ticking getting quicker? It felt like it was getting faster and faster, almost matching the beating of her heart. Tick. Tock. Tick. Tock. With no idea where to go, she kept following the green light as it led her back down and through the building, until they were on the first floor, and the green light went away. But in the distance she could see a dull glow coming from an open door at the end of the hall. Tick. Tock. Tick. Tock. Tick. Tock. Ochako stiffened as the ticking increased pace noticeably, becoming almost frenzied. Tick. Tock. Tick. Tock. Tick. Tock. She walked quickly to the glow and entered the room. Inside was a bunch of monitors which had been turned off when she and Tokage had first checked the room. And sitting in the chair was Kaminari, his electric golden eyes seeming to glow in the dark. The only other part that stood out was the small yellow streak in his hair. Tick-tock, tick-tock, tick-tock. Kaminari chuckled. So glad you could finally join me, my dear. Tick-tock, tick-tock, tick-tock. Ochako frowned at him. Whatever you're planning won't work. I'll stop you. Tick-tock, tick-tock, tick-tock. I'm afraid, tick-tock, 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 that you're too late, darling, Kaminari said, suddenly spinning around in his chair and hitting a button. No! Ochako cried out, racing forward to stop him as he moved. But he was right. It was too late. He pressed the button, and nothing she did could stop him. The screens all changed, revealing a black screen with a green smiley face. All right, listeners, this concludes Chapter 88 of Little Acts of Kindness. Chapter 89 will be up next. Drop those thoughts and reactions below for me so I can see what you all thought as well. And as always, thank you all so much for listening.